What's going on, guys? Minnesota here, and today I'm bringing you yet again another edition of my top 5 end of the year lists. To kick things off, I'm going to go through and list my top 5 favorite games from this year. I played a lot of games in 2024, probably the most I've played from any year ever so far, and I got to experience some great new titles that were released this year. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts and feelings on my list and some of your favorite games that were released in 2024. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Number 5, Hades 2. Kicking off my list, we have Supergiant Games' Hades 2. Some avid watchers of the channel might remember that I put the original Hades in my top 5 games of 2020 list. I'm happy to say that the sequel is just as good, if not better in many ways, than the original. Without giving away too many spoilers on the story, we now play as Melanoi, sister of Zagreus, daughter of Hades. Like her brother, we must work our way through the underworld to defeat the evil which traps us. This action-packed roguelike is filled to the brim with new mechanics, weapons, and plenty of boons bestowed upon us by our fellow Greek god family members. Hades is one of the best in the genre when it comes to roguelikes. I felt like they improved a lot in the combat, making it faster and more responsive with this iteration into the series. The score and boss battles are, again, some of the major highlights, which I think are an improvement on the 2020 release. If you're a fan of roguelike games and somehow haven't played any of the Hades titles, firstly, play the original, and then come back and pick up Hades 2. Number 4, Astrobot. Blasting its way into my number 4 spot, we have none other than the Game Awards Game of the Year winner, Astrobot. Although this game wasn't my personal pick for what should have won Game of the Year, I cannot deny how fun and enjoyable of an experience Astrobot was to play in 2024. It brought me back to the old 3D platformers Sony was so famous for in the early 2000s, and it scratched that itch perfectly. Astrobot not only plays fantastically, but has a vibrant color palette, fun levels, and plenty of Easter eggs, which peek into the legacy of other Sony titles, something which I love that they embraced. Astrobot was an extremely surprising hit for me in 2024, and by the sounds of the community, it's clearly resonating a lot with folks. You can pick this title up exclusively on PS5 today. Number 3, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Whipping its way into the number 3 spot, we have Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I've been a huge fan of the Indiana Jones franchise for as long as I can remember, and it makes me extremely happy to see not only a new game release for the series, but it being a fantastic game and one of the best of the year. I didn't quite know how I would like the Great Circle at first. I think the game got a little bit too much flack early on being associated with Bethesda and with their recent track record in terms of games. People were skeptical. But if you don't know, this game actually wasn't made by Bethesda Game Studios, it was published by Bethesda. It was actually developed by Machine Games, famous for their Wolfenstein series. The Great Circle is great for 2 things, and no, one of them is not the circle. It gives you all the right mechanics to be Indiana Jones, and it allows you to explore and uncover secrets on your own, just like he would. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I feel, is a title that has been slept on a little bit too much this year, and if you're skeptical of buying it, just know it gets a resounding yes from me. Number 2, Black Myth: Wukong. Swinging his way into the number 2 spot is The Destined One from Black Myth: Wukong. This was by far my most anticipated title for 2024, and I'm happy to say it lived up to the hype. Although it deviates a lot from the Souls-like gameplay many were expecting, Wukong still plays and feels great as a boss rush sim. Inspired by the Journey to the West story, Black Myth: Wukong puts you in the shoes of the Destined One as you travel across the world, fighting enemies to try and reach the stone shell of Sun Wukong. The combat feels great, the music is amazing, and the boss battles are challenging. What more could you want? I really enjoyed my time playing Black Myth: Wukong, spending just over 40 hours on my first playthrough of the game. This is easily one of my favorite title releases from this year. And now, because I played so many games this year, I wanted to do something different and give a quick shout out to some honorable mentions that didn't quite crack my top 5, but I still think are excellent games. In no particular order, I have Silent Hill 2 Remake, Balatro, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Helldivers 2, Animal Well, and Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. I have a whole list of more games released this year that I want to play, but there's only so much time left in the day. But in case you were wondering, I highly recommend all the games I have mentioned in this video. And my number 1. Number 1, Metaphor ReFantazio. The typical JRPG was never my style of game. But after trying Persona 5 and discovering the genius of Atlus, I can't get enough of them now. Metaphor ReFantazio is through and through my favorite game of 2024. I know I talk a lot about how great the scores are in other video games, but Metaphor is truly a cut above the rest. The orchestral composition and chanting during fights is something you will never forget. But music alone isn't something that can earn you this illustrious prize. But luckily, Metaphor also has a fantastic story with extremely well-written and well-designed characters. Having a voice protagonist was a change I wasn't sure would have worked for me. But, call me crazy, I actually might prefer having one now for future iterations. Or at least for Metaphor games. Sorry Persona fans, don't attack me. The combat, buffs, nerfs, team-ups, and combos as well I think are a huge improvement on previous Atlus titles. I love the design of enemies and how they got more abstract the deeper you dive into the game. The story as well I know has gotten a lot of love, but I'd just like to give it my personal praise to the writing department for this game. So often now we get these intricate RPG titles which have fun mechanics, but usually have a decent to lackluster story. And I love how well written and introspective and just plain cool Metaphor's story is. This was an easy decision to make to put it in my favorite game of 2024. And those are my picks for my top 5 games of 2024. Do you agree with my choices? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to also like and subscribe and check out my other year-end top 5 lists when they release. That's it for me. But until then, I will see you all next time.